Want to know why? Ask how. Howard the Humongous. Tonight I want to talk to you about icons, mythic figures, pop stars, people who loom large in our minds, people who are the skyhooks for things to come. And there are two of these major mythic figures I want to talk just a little bit about. One is Michael Jackson, and the other is Elon Musk. We all know who Michael Jackson is. Who is Elon Musk? Elon Musk, when I first saw him approximately 7 years ago, explained something. He said that when he got out of college, he asked himself what three things were going to make the biggest difference to humanity in his lifetime. And he answered that question with the internet, alternative energy, and space. So Elon went directly into area number one that would change humanity dramatically. He helped build up a very small web-based business, a business that helped transfer money from one person to another. He built it up to the point where eventually he was able to sell his share in the company for anywhere from $800 million to $1 billion. The company was called PayPal. And after Elon Musk sold his share of this company he helped build on the internet, he was known as a PayPal billionaire. Now remember, Elon had three things that would change humanity the most: the internet, alternative energy, and space. He skipped over item number two, alternative energy, and he went directly to space. Roughly 10 to 12 years ago, Elon Musk founded SpaceX. Well, for a long time, it was very hard to tell if SpaceX was going to make any difference to the world whatsoever. And then Elon began launching his Falcon rockets. By now, March of 2014, Elon has launched 3 successful rockets carrying Dragon capsules, a capsule that his company, SpaceX, has made to the International Space Station. Elon is the first private company to actually launch capsules to the International Space Station. On 2 of those 3 missions, the first was a dry run. The second and third were to deliver payloads to the International Space Station. Thousands of pounds of new stuff that you need to survive in space. But then Elon's Dragon capsule did something really remarkable. It not only gave a bunch of cargo to the folks on the International Space Station, it took a bunch of cargo from them and used science experiments, for example, that were awaiting analysis down here on Earth. And it brought them back down here to Earth. It splashed them down safely in the sea. Why is this remarkable? The space military industrial complex until 2011 was able to get us into space using the shuttle. The shuttle is one of those systems that Congress and the Senate tinkered with enormously. It was not entirely a product of engineers. It was partly a product of politics. The result was that to get a pound, to get roughly a coffee mug with a tiny amount of coffee in it, into space cost $38,000 on the space shuttle. That is outrageous. To get you into space with all of the equipment it takes to sustain you, the oxygen, the water, the food, the clothing, costs, using shuttle figures, cost $750 million. How many trips of that sort were you likely to be able to afford in your lifetime? The answer, unless you happen to be one of the rare billionaires on planet Earth, is absolutely zero. The space military industrial complex has a big nipple in its mouth. It's accustomed to receiving much too much money to accomplish much too little. So Elon put up the Dragon capsule and docked it with the International Space Station 3 times and delivered cargo, then brought stuff back. 2 months ago, a company called Orbital Sciences, which is a part of the space military industrial complex, pretended that it was doing the same thing. It sent its first capsule to the International Space Station. It unloaded the cargo from that capsule on the International Space Station, and then it did something it tried not to let you know anything about. It could not carry any return cargo. It could not carry an ounce of return cargo. It could not carry used science experiments or old socks. Why? Because it burned up in the atmosphere. Elon Musk's private industry Dragon capsule, which he supported almost entirely from his own money, was able to do something that the space military industrial complex right now, today, cannot do. On March 5th, there was testimony before a House Appropriations Committee on space. You didn't get to hear about it. Two people testified, two people beyond the others. One was the head of a company called United Launch Alliance. What is United Launch Alliance? United Launch Alliance is a partnership between Boeing and, I always forget the name and I can't find it, between two of the major space military industrial complex companies. And it has had a monopoly on launching American stuff into space. When the military wants to launch a new satellite, a surveillance satellite, a GPS satellite, satellites that are absolutely necessary for the defense of this country and for the daily running of our normal business, figuring out what street corner you're on and where to go next, for UPS to figure out how to do its job of logistics. All of these satellites are launched on United Launch Alliance vehicles, United Launch Alliance rockets, the Delta IVs and the Atlas Vs. We have a small problem here. The Atlas Vs use a rocket whose first letter is an R. Why is the first letter of this rocket engine's acronym, its name, an R? Because it's made in Russia. We pretend through United Launch Alliance that we are launching American satellites into space on American rockets, and in fact we are dependent for the engines on Russia. This is a problem. Periodically we run into trouble with Vladimir Putin. We have run into trouble with him right now in the Crimea and in the Ukraine. We are talking about solving some of these problems we're having with Putin by leveling sanctions, economic sanctions against him. What's the problem with that? Well, he controls the rockets that get our military satellites, yes, our military satellites into space. The government, the military, has just concluded a 5-year deal with United Launch Alliance involving 35 rocket launches, taking up vital satellites. All of the rocket launches that depend on Atlas V rockets will depend on Russian rocket engines. What's the problem with that? Vladimir Putin could cut off our supplies of these engines at any point. What's worse, we are talking about hundreds of billions of dollars of American money. And that money should be spent on American industry so that American industry can get better and better at making rockets and can make more and more advanced rockets. United Launch Alliance, according to the testimony of Elon Musk in front of the Senate committee, first of all, Elon says that with his rockets, the Falcon 9s, are made entirely in the United States of America. They are made entirely with American engineering, with American smarts. They have been worked and worked and worked to be not just super reliable, but far more advanced than anything that United Launch Alliance is offering. What's more, says Elon, if the government had given him that contract for 35 launches for the next 5 years, it would have saved itself, wait a minute, $11.6 billion. Enough money to build 550 schools or 650 hospitals. 650, and enough to equip every major city and every minor town in the United States with one extra very big hospital or with one extra school. That's outrageous. Why? Because United Launch Alliance has had the military space industrial complex nipple in its mouth. It's had what's called cost plus purchasing. It makes money no matter how high the costs are of what it builds. It still makes a profit. It has no incentive to find more efficient ways to make things so that you lower their costs. If our costs of getting things to orbit continue to be $38,000 for a mostly empty coffee mug, or $10,000, which is approximately what it costs for a United Launch Alliance launch, the Chinese will beat us in space. They will be inhabiting space when we are still navel gazing down here on Earth. And a launch of a Falcon 9 costs $100 million, but a launch from United Launch Alliance costs $335 million, over 3 times as much. Plus, Elon is about to make his rockets reusable. Today, when it comes to rocketry, we do the equivalent of buying a Rolls-Royce, driving it until it runs out of its first tank of gas, ditching it in Lake Erie or the Atlantic Ocean, and buying another one. This is a very expensive way to get around. It costs far more than a normal citizen could ever afford. To make travel affordable, you have to reuse your vehicle over and over again, thousands of times. And when you do, the relative cost, the cost per trip of that vehicle comes way, way down. Elon Musk is about to make his rockets reusable. They're called grasshoppers. They land on giant legs. They have retro rockets. They come down where you want them to. On March 16th, Elon Musk is launching his third cargo mission with the Dragon capsule carrying cargo to the International Space Station. Something very unusual will happen with the first stage of his rocket launch. That first stage, once it carries its load up toward orbit, will then come back down on its tail, make it through the screeching heat of the atmosphere, slow itself down, unfold legs that are approximately 14 feet tall, the span from one leg's output to, or out, whatever you want to call it, bottom, to another, is 60 feet. And will gently settle into the sea. Why the sea? Because this is a test. Elon Musk wants to make sure that his reusable rocket works. He wants to haul that rocket from the sea back to his Hawthorne, California plant and look it over to make sure all the systems work. What's he aiming for? Sending rockets up, bringing them back down to Earth in a precise location on a landing pad, refueling them, putting new cargo on them, and sending them back up again within 10 hours. Airline-style operation to get cargo into space. What does this have to do with Elon being a rock star? What does this have to do with Elon Musk being a mythic figure? What does it have to do with being an icon? What does it have to do with Michael Jackson? The two most, look, I have spent my life around iconic figures. I spent my life around people like Prince and Bette Midler and Bob Marley, around, I'm blanking on his name, Buzz Aldrin, Edgar Mitchell, the sixth man on the moon, around the 11th president of India, Dr. APJ Kalam, was a rocket scientist and is the most popular politician in all of India. I've been fortunate enough to spend my life around some very important people. There's something vital to know about a real iconic figure. Once upon a time, Isaac Newton tried to explain how he had managed to take science a giant pole vault ahead of where science had ever been in the past. And he said, I did it by standing on the shoulders of giants. The giants he had in mind were Kepler, and my brain is really in bad shape tonight, and Galileo. That's what happens when life is about standing on the shoulders of giants. When you fall in love with a pop star like Justin Timberlake or Britney Spears, you put her poster or his poster up on your walls. You grow up in that figure. That is the person who becomes your trellis. That is the person who becomes your launch pad. That is the person who provides you with the shoulders you stand on. If the figure you are fixated on when you are 11 and a half, 12 and a half, or 13 years old is as empty as Britney Spears, who, by the way, I think is a terrific performer and I enjoy a lot of her songs, but her message is one of total personal chaos. That's all. Personal emptiness and chaos. Or Justin Timberlake, who really has nothing profound to say. You're sunk, because that's the figure that's the shoulders of giants you're standing on. You only go as far as those shoulders will allow you to. If your figure is a Michael Jackson who took astonishment, surprise, amazement, the ability to perceive the infinite in the tiniest of things. I'm talking about my own experience standing shoulder to shoulder to him when he was looking at portfolios of artist pictures, and I could feel him seeing the infinite in the tiniest square of the pictures he saw. You could feel his knees buckling next to you. You could feel his elbow at your elbow buckling. You could hear it when he went, ooh, ooh, ooh. You could hear him seeing more in an inch of a picture than the artist had ever seen in the entire picture himself. Michael was an amazement. That's something that has to get across to humanity. So provide the shoulders of giants that you and I need when it comes to the quality of seeing the astonishment in the smallest of things. That's a message about Michael's content that hasn't been put across yet and needs to be put across. And when it comes to Elon, Elon has a profound personal message that you can look for the things that are going to make the most difference to humanity in your lifetime, that you can set out to achieve them. And if you work hard and obsessively and smart enough, you can accomplish those things. You can bring the cost of American access to space down from $38,000 a pound to $100 a pound, and beyond that to $10 a pound. And you could make it the birthright of every single American to buy a ticket, to go to space. What is a superstar? What is a mythic figure? What is a hero? What is a pop idol? A pop idol, a hero, a person like Elon Musk or Michael Jackson is a piton. What is a piton? A piton is a spike a mountain climber uses to climb an impossible cliff surface, an impossible mountain wall. The mountain climber takes the piton, takes a hammer, drives the piton into the solid rock as far above his head as he possibly can, or her head, takes a rope around his or her waist, puts it around the piton, and brings himself, pulls himself up to the level of the piton so the piton is at his waist. Then he reaches as high above his head as he possibly can, and with his hammer drives another piton into the wall, wraps his rope around it, and pulls himself up once again. And by using piton after piton after piton, that climber can scale a sheer rock face. That climber can go hundreds of feet, hundreds of yards above his or her head. That climber can climb to heights beyond belief. That climber can break the laws of gravity. When Michael Jackson establishes a new standard of awe and wonder, that is a standard of awe and wonder that you and I can aspire to. And someday we can make that level of awe and wonder normal while we reach above our heads with the help of another hero or star, or even being the hero or star ourselves, to pull ourselves to a level of awe and wonder far beyond that level. Does awe and wonder count? Awe and wonder is the heart of vision. Awe and wonder is the heart of our ability to perceive, our ability to see the infinite in the tiniest of things, our ability to see impossible possibilities as real. And where does Elon Musk fit into this? Elon Musk is doing impossible things. Elon Musk is doing more than lowering the cost of access to space from $38,000 a pound to $100 a pound or less. He is doing more than simply making a trip to space as easy as a trip from New York to California. He has another vision in mind. He calls it the Mars Colonial Transport. It's a rocket that will carry 100 people at a time to Mars to colonize the place permanently. Elon Musk has a vision of taking tens of thousands of humans to Mars and all the cargo it takes to set them up on independent bases so they can see what new possibilities exist on the utter wasteland of Mars, just as new possibilities existed in the utter wasteland of California in 1848, when it seemed like a waste of time a waste of money, a waste of space, a wasteland that would never pay off in any way at all. Did that vision, which was the vision of the experts, turn out to be true? Was California a place that merited no investment of human time or energy or money whatsoever? The space in California that the experts said would be useless is worth millions of dollars per acre today. Millions of dollars per acre. And someday, the surface of Mars, habitations in the sky, space colonies, will be worth everything to us because we'll have found ways to take the tiniest of things and make an infinity out of them. That is human nature. And Elon Musk is showing us how we can have a space program that goes so far beyond the imaginings of the folks at NASA that it's ridiculous. 100 colonists going to Mars at a time. A colonial transport fleet, a Mars colonial transport fleet. Those are Elon's words, Mars colonial transport. That's reusable. That functions the way airlines function today, that go back and forth between two planets, that give life more than just one home, on more than just one hostile, poisonous planet, because that's what this planet was when life began to rework it 3.85 billion years ago. Elon's ambition allows life to go beyond one tiny planet, one tiny poison pill of stone, to another poison pill of stone. And what has life done with the poison pill of stone on which you and I live? It's turned it into a garden that has a great deal of suffering, a garden that has a great deal of death, a garden that has many, many problems. But death and pain are problems it's your job and my job to solve. Elon is putting a piton far above our heads, and he at this moment is pulling us up so that it's the level of our waists, and we can look beyond it. That is what superheroes do. That is what icons do. They provide the shoulders of giants on which you and I can stand. And when you and I see new ways to do it, it's our job to become the shoulders of giants on which generations down the line will stand. Pop stars, mythic figures, icons, they are our spikes in the rock above our head. This is Howard the Humongous, speaking to you from the future. It's your job and my job to make. Or, want to know why? Ask how. And now to find the off button. It's there, I see it.